Hi guys, welcome back to the Randy Rex Show. It's me, Randy, and this episode I have the recap of episode 1 through 4 of the Traitors season 2. So you're gonna get a little bit of watch along with myself and my cousins and see how we fare with our draft picks. You'll get to see who has a traitor on their team. And then, of course, you'll get to see the people that get banished and the people that the traitors murder. In episode 1, we get all of the 21 traitors arriving to the grand old castle. And, they get in their little round table. They all have their blindfolds on, and Alan walks around and he picks his traitors. Now, last season he picked all of the traitors. He picked 3 of them. This season he only picked 2. And then he revealed that those 2 traitors are going to meet and recruit one of the faithfuls to be the 3rd traitor. Well, he didn't say a number. So, some of the faithfuls even think that there are already 3 and they're going to pick a 4th, when in actuality there's 2 and they're going to pick the 3rd. So, if you don't know what the Traitors is, basically, they have these contestants, these reality all-stars, and we have our first 2 traitors in Dan and Phaedra, and they will pick a 3rd. But going in, we have this challenge where they're all tied up. They have to untie themselves, and then they have to get on a canoe and row out to a puzzle on the water, put together this puzzle all within like 30 minutes. But at the same time, they have other people looking at these clues in the brush on the shore, where they have these glass bottles and they have clues in there so they can figure out what the puzzle looks like on the water. And at the same time, even more so than that, Alan had introduced a new twist this season where contestants could get a shield to protect them from being banished. So you have all of this stuff going on for the challenge, but then at the same time, if someone is feeling vulnerable, they can go and search for one of these shields. So this episode, Janelle, Deontay, and CT found a shield. They do not have a round table for whatever reason this episode, but Dan and Phaedra meet. They pick someone to murder, and then they also pick someone to recruit. And Alan delivers the message, and that's the end of the episode. We don't know who's murdered. We don't know who's recruited. So finally, at the beginning of episode 2, we see that Parvati is the one that Dan and Phaedra chose to join the ranks of the traitors. We also see through the breakfast reveal, which is basically the traitors in random order joining the breakfast table. They knock on the door and you get to see who comes in. You get to see who survived the murder. And unfortunately, Johnny Bananas did not survive and he was murdered by the traitors. So, they have another challenge. There's a little discrepancy between Trishelle and Peppermint. They're both talking about their fashions. And Trishelle, they're complimenting each other, and Trishelle basically just says a little offhanded thing like, well, if I get murdered, we'll know you're a traitor. And Peppermint was kind of just like, just had a little reaction. But Trishelle goes on to say that it was a very big reaction. And this really is what kind of does Peppermint in at the round table, because Trishelle doesn't quit talking about it. Other people are talking about it. And when they bring it up at the round table, it just becomes a dog pile on Peppermint. Peppermint is banished. She has to stand in the circle of truth, and she lets everyone know that she's a faithful. Later that evening, Parvati, Dan, and Phaedra finally meet. The boxer Deontay is actually really emotional at this point because he just hates the dog pile on Peppermint. But there is no murder at the end of episode 2. So, episode 3 is a fun episode. You start to see a lot of the different reality stars go within themselves and kind of just team up with the people that they more know. Like, you get all the housewives, you get all of the Survivor Big Brother Challenge people, and then you kind of just have an odd duck mix of faithfuls. It does turn out that at the beginning of episode 3, the Traitors murdered Marcus. Marcus Jordan, Larsa Pippen's boyfriend. So within this episode, we finally get some people getting turned onto the Traitors. Now, you know, three of the three Traitors are on my team, so this is a lot of high stakes for me. And my first pick was Dan Giesling, and he is the one that they are getting onto right now. They're kind of uncovering his bluffs. And Bergie brings him up at the round table. MJ brings him up. Dante actually brings up Max, the professional dancer, and Max ends up getting banished. And of course, Deontay is upset about this as well because he keeps getting it wrong. And he actually says he doesn't know how much longer he can do this. Instead of meeting like they normally would to murder someone, the Traitors get a note that there is a chalice, a cup, like a goblet hidden in a empty book in the library. They have to find the chalice and they have to get faithful to drink out of it. And that is going to be poisoning the faithful, therefore murdering them. So at the end of the episode, we see Parvati and Dan find the cup, or the chalice as they call it. And then the rest of the episode, you just see Parvati talking about how she's trying to find someone to poison, trying to make it not noticeable. And they don't reveal who it is, but she tells us she finds her victim. And that's the end of episode 3. So episode 4 is really fun because we ended off with that cliffhanger of who was poisoned, and we pick up right where we left off and we see Parvati kind of just lingering around different groups of people, and she finds her victim in Ekin-Su. Ekin-Su is the one that she somehow gets to drink from this cup. So the next morning, the Traitors are expecting Ekin-Su not to show up, but everyone shows up as if no one was murdered. Shortly after, Alan comes in and he tells them all that someone was poisoned in plain sight in front of everyone, and it's a slow acting poison, and by the end of their mission, the person will be dead. So the mission is a funeral procession for this person, and basically they have 3 checkpoints in which they have a question that they have to answer, and then if they get it right, you know, they'll eliminate people that are could be the person that was poisoned. And then at the end, it gets to Parvati, MJ, and Ekin-Su, and everyone else has to vote on who they think was poisoned, and everyone votes for MJ, which is obviously wrong. He reveals Ekin-Su's murdered, and they don't win any money. But yeah, so she's gone. What else happens in this episode? People are really coming on to Dan. Larsa specifically thinks that it's a alpha male. She thinks it's either CT or Dan, and she wants to go for Dan hard this round table, and she does. But they're able to flip it on Larsa, and everyone votes for Larsa, who's obviously a faithful. And people are upset about that. Something else that happened, Deontay just quit out of nowhere at the very beginning of the episode. After we see that Ekin-Su is the one that's poisoned, there's a really quick blurb about how Deontay quit. He couldn't handle the game. So that's the season so far. It's a lot of fun. stay tuned. You won't have to wait very long for my next review for the next 4 episodes, and then we'll be caught up and we can keep enjoying this amazing season
Real hot
together.
girl shit. It ain't always about what you like, sometimes it's about what's right. I'd rather be a B-I-T-C-H, cause that's what you gon' call me when I'm trippin' anyway. You know you can't control me, baby. You need a real one in your life. The bitches ain't gon' give it to you right.